I'm Annie. I'm a consultant in Credera's management consulting practice. I'm originally from Dallas. I went to OSU and graduated in 2023 with a degree in marketing and management and a minor in international business. At my time at Credera, I focused on strategy projects for the org and change side, tactical implementations, and then just working on the care team, which is an employee resource group with Credera. Outside of work, the more fun things, I love to travel. I studied abroad in Scotland. I've been backpacking for around 4 months total, and I'm planning on going to South America in the summer. I'll pass it back to Ryan.
Yeah, so my name is Ryan. I just started at Credera in June. I graduated from Oklahoma State spring of 2023 with undergrad degrees in accounting and MIS, and then I done MIS 4+1. I just graduated this past spring. I'm in our tech consulting side. My focus is in data, so that's my major at Credera. So I really like data engineering. I think I said something about taking data, putting it somewhere else, and making it useful for business decisions, if I remember correctly. So for some reason, that just really sticks for me. Outside of work, I think I said I really like peanut butter pie. If you've ever been a pie junkie in Oklahoma City, they have really good peanut butter chocolate pie. It's the best. So yeah, we can get into a little Credera intro. So Credera is a digital transformation global boutique consulting firm. So global, we have offices around the world, around 3,000 employees globally. Boutique, think like a small boutique shop. We try to maintain that really close client experience, building relationships. We're really partners with our clients. I think we have around 800 to 1,000 employees in the US. Our headquarters are in Dallas. We also have offices in Houston, Chicago, Atlanta, Denver. Is that all of them? New York, Chicago. Yeah. There we go. And here are a few of our clients. I'm currently staffed on Mercedes. Annie is on.
I can't say it.
Sorry.
It's an NDA.
I'll do better next time. And so we can go on to the next slide.
Yeah.
So a little bit about Credera and our values. Obviously, the one at the top is the one that we value most highly, and that's people first. So if you ask anybody at Credera what their favorite part of Credera is, there's a 90% chance they're going to say the people. Everybody's incredible. We really try to, like I said, like the boutique part of Credera's strategy, we really value relationships, whether it's with me and Annie here on the OSU here today, or the OSU team here today, whether it's on our client team, or whether it's just anybody you meet in the office. We really value that, getting to know people as an individual and caring about people that way. My favorite value, other than people first, is tenacity. I like solving hard problems and working really hard on something. At the end of the day, being able to say that I worked really hard on that, and I also delivered something that was really cool and provided value. So digging into hard problems and feeling like you accomplished something at the end of the day. A little bit about our industries. We are a big enough consulting firm that we have a little bit of everything. My favorite part about consulting is that I don't really care what kind of company or industry I work on. I just like seeing different problems, different clients, different businesses, as well as different technologies and tools, ways of working, ways of problem solving. I just like that really big experience, but if you do have an interest in anything specific, we're probably going to have something up here for you. In our practices, like Annie said, she's in management consulting, and I'm in the tech consulting side. So management consulting is a lot of strategy, really. So currently on my team, the management consulting side of our team, they do a lot of use case deconstruction, which is like jargon. But basically that means we have an idea we want to implement. How do we break that down into like actionable things that we can actually do, and then define a strategy around that. So we need to do A and then B, and then we're going to pass it off to this other team to do C or something like that. On the tech side, a lot of times that's implementing the strategy plans that the management consulting side has come up with. So I write code on a daily basis. That's what I'll say there. I like to think it's fairly straightforward. I know it's not, but if you have questions, you can find me afterwards. We also have experience design. Honestly, I don't really know what they do. I always tell people it's like you're the front end part of the website. So really designing that customer, that user experience, or maybe it's a flow if you walk into a store or something, so that from the time you walk in to the time you walk out, you have a really good experience and you're more likely to buy something or whatever that business is trying to do.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to this is that a lot of the times our projects combine multiple of these practices within one. So I'm on an org and change project right now, but we have 6 to 8 technology consultants on our project with us. And that's something I really appreciate about Credera, is that you don't just stay within your own lane of your specialty. You get exposed to a lot of different roles within your projects.
Okay, So that's a little bit about Credera. We're now going to get into today's topic. We're going to talk about personal brands first. So what is a personal brand? Does anybody have any ideas? It's kind of a broad thing that nobody really knows. A personal brand is the thing that we told you in our bios. It's everything you've gotten from everything I've said, the little offhand comments I make, anything else, like who you sell yourself as, that is your personal brand. And so a formal definition, just a couple things I want to emphasize, is how you present yourself, and it's the crafting of your identity. So crafting, that word right there, it's not just something that you're going to walk out of this and have at the end of the day or at the end of the week or something, or even the end of the month. It's something that's going to continuously evolve over your college career, over your professional career, over your entire life, really. It's not static, and it's something that will continue to change, and that you have to spend time cultivating or developing to what you want it to be, really. And so on that topic of cultivating it into what you want it to be, why should you do that? You guys are here, obviously, so there's some desire to do it or interest in what is it, maybe why is it relevant? Career Fair Week is this week, so that's one really good way to do it. Your personal brand is the easiest, I won't say easiest, I will say the quickest, most convenient way to quickly sell yourself to an employer. If you can hand them a resume, give them a LinkedIn link for them to reference after, and have a 30-second pitch of who you are and why you think you would be a good fit for their company, you're selling your personal brand to them. So that's a really good, practical, relevant reason to build your brand. Then also curating your leadership style. So I'll give an example. I played soccer in high school, and there are kind of like two types of leaders on like a sports team. You have like the vocal leader that tells people what they need to do, where they need to be, like yells at them if they mess stuff up. That was not me. I was more the show up, like lead by example type person. There are definitely times where I needed to be the first and I wasn't, and I failed to do that. But that wasn't my brand. And so there's like a little bit of a brand mismatch between what you are and what you need to be. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't step into those roles sometimes. But developing your brand, developing your leadership style helps you get you into those opportunities where you really will excel and thrive. And then where you can use your personal brand, just a little bit more specific, job search, networking, career fair, public speaking. So maybe, or starting a business, like maybe it's not exactly maybe it's not even related to your job at all. Maybe you want to get involved in your community, but you want to do something similar to the work you do on a daily basis, but to help your community or an organization that you're really passionate about. So that's a really good way, if you have that personal brand, to take something, hey, I'm really good at these skills in this context. I can take them and do the exact same thing over here for you if you just give me a chance. And the big idea, sorry, and I know I'm keeping you on your toes over there trying to guess when I'm ready to go to the next slide, but the big idea, how are you unique and what sets you apart from others? So why would I want to talk to you or hire you rather than somebody really similar to you who goes to OU? I can think of one good reason, but your personal brand is another really good reason of why you over somebody else. So that was what is a personal brand generally, and now we can talk a little bit about actually how to develop your personal brand. So to get started, kind of the core thing here is what drives you. Like, why do you want to get out of bed in the morning? Why do you like what you do? If you have clubs or hobbies or just interests, like what is it about those things that interest you that keeps you engaged? So a few questions. What motivates you to get up and go to work in the morning? It's not always easy. Sometimes you were traveling and you got home late. And even if you like your job, like it's not always easy to go to work in the morning, but why is it that you continue to do that day after day, week after week, month after month, even though it's not always easy? So that's one really good question. Two that I'm going to group together here. What skills are you curious about, and what skills do you have or that you're proud of? So on the one hand, we'll start with the second one. So what are you good at? It's okay to be good at things and not necessarily to brag, but like, what are you good at, and to sell yourself on that. Like, I am really good at, I know this part of data engineering, or I am a whiz when it comes to data visualization. I'm not personally, but if that's your skill set, it's okay to tell people that and to advertise yourself as being really good at that. On the other hand, maybe you have interests that you don't necessarily have skills in now, but you really want to develop those things. So finding a way to consistently express your interests in a genuine way, not just like, oh, I want to work on this because I think it'll get me a job, but like, hey, I really am interested in this, and I want the opportunity to develop this skill set, or something along those lines, even if it's not exactly the most attractive role ever, but finding a way to express those interests is a way to develop your personal brand as somebody who's interested or curious or you just want to learn. What things energize you? I'm going to tie this back to the first one. Why do you get up to work in the morning? So I was on OSU's campus last week for campus recruiting, Credera branding stuff as well, and it is exhausting. It is a ton of fun, but if I did that for my full-time job, I would burn out so fast. I have so much respect for the recruiters who do this every year and go through the career fair, like the recruiting process, but it doesn't energize me. Like, it is draining, and I need like quiet time to myself to be able to restore. So knowing like what actually energizes you and how you recover after a long day or a hard day or something, or even like a long week, that's a really good idea of helping identify the things that are complementary to your personal brand. And then lastly, what do you want to contribute to the world? Do you have things outside of school or work that you're passionate about? Finding ways to wrap those into your personal brand is a great way to kind of gives you a tactical way to actually execute on your personal brand. And then what are the people that you admire? What do all those people have in common, or why do you admire? It doesn't have to be, I admire X, Y, and Z about my top 10 favorite people in the world or whatever, but it can be about, this person, I really like their work ethic, or like I had a boss during my internship with Credera last year, and he asked really good questions, like really good questions. He could get to the core of an issue with like one single question, and usually he just kind of said, this is what I think, can you confirm that or correct my understanding? And that was it. There's no need for constant back and forth. So that was something that I really admire, and that's something that I try to develop in myself and wrap into my personal brand. So just a few actionable tips. Your strengths and weaknesses. What are you good at? What makes you unique? What are the things that you are? What are your strong suits? And how can you contribute? Understanding your target audience. I gave a presentation on storytelling with data last week, and one of the really boring things but important things is, who are you talking to? Am I talking to a CEO who has no idea why I'm in the room, no idea who I am, frankly? So do I need to build that rapport first before I can tell him why he's in the meeting, and so he can get on to his next thing that's way above my pay grade? Or am I talking to an analyst who really wants to nerd out and geek out on the stuff that I'm interested in? So understanding your audience when you're delivering your personal brand. Can I be really frank? Am I talking to my career coach and I can say, hey, I'm really not interested in the work I'm doing right now. I want to do something that aligns more with X. Or am I talking to someone I need to be a little more tactful with and just kind of not hold back, but just be more deliberate in choosing my words. So that's another really good one there. Developing a unique value proposition. I kind of feel like I'm beating this one to death. So like, why are you different? Why are you special? Why can you contribute value in a way that somebody else can't? And then being consistent and being authentic. How many people in this room, by show of hands, think you have a pretty good built-in lie detector, or you know when someone's BSing you? It's okay to raise your hand. I was hoping for more hands than that. But look around the room, that's who you're trying to fool right there. So if you're gonna get up there and try to sell a personal brand that isn't really you, people are gonna know. I don't know, we as humans, we just have a way of telling when someone's not telling the truth. And then being consistent, whether it's me talking to Annie, me talking to you guys, me talking to my brother, I'm not going to use the exact same words, present myself the exact same way, but at the core, I am the same person in all three of those conversations. I'm just expressing myself slightly differently. So whether it's talking to you guys on my LinkedIn, on my work bio, making sure that you're really unified in the brand that you want to express across all of those platforms. And then lastly, so those were kind of the tips, and then these are sort of the mediums about where or how to express your personal brand, how to convey it, how to let other people see it, to learn who you are. So LinkedIn and resume, I'll put those two together. A lot of times your resume has your LinkedIn on it. So if you hand your resume to an employer at the career fair and then they go to your LinkedIn and the two things aren't reconciling, you're going to raise some questions there. And it's not necessarily a red flag, but it's like, okay, I now need to talk to this person. I have questions about whether or not they're a good fit, what their skills are, what their interests are. Whereas if that's unified, you just eliminate that altogether, and it makes it a much more seamless process to move forward in the interview process, application process, whatever it might be. Even if you're not necessarily applying for a job, just making it clear who you are and not contradicting yourself across different platforms is really important. Getting involved in your community. If you have things outside of school or work that you're interested in, whether it's church, a run club, I don't know, like Business Professionals of America, Women in Tech, anything like that. If you have one of those things that you're interested in, you're going to be interacting with other people who also have jobs. Telling the story of who you are, sharing your personal brand with them, at some point it will open up some opportunity, whether you want it or not. So that doesn't have to be the point of doing those things, but figuring out ways in your community or things that you're passionate about to get involved helps you develop different skills, share your personal brand with other people, and just get yourself out there, really. And then being a thought leader, on the topic of getting yourself out there, find a way to directly express your ideas. You aren't necessarily selling yourself as a concept in these things, but if it's a podcast, a blog post, I don't know if you have an email newsletter or something, just finding different ways to get your ideas out there. And a lot of times the idea isn't to be right, it's to, even if you just want to be blatantly wrong, somebody will tell you. I don't know if you guys, there's some rule or something about the best way to get an answer is not to ask a question on the internet, it's to make an incorrect statement, because people love to correct you. So if just by doing that, you're going to develop some sort of relationship. I'm not saying it's going to be a good one if it's somebody on Twitter yelling at you about why you're wrong, but if it's in a more long-form post or a more long-form piece of content, if it's a podcast, a blog post, maybe you write a book, you're going to interact with people, talk with people, share ideas, you'll share your personal brand with them and they'll share theirs with you.
All right, thank you, Ryan. So I will be covering the topic of executive presence. And so just want to caveat this with your personal brand directly affects your executive presence and how you are perceived as a leader. So starting off with our little iceberg right here. So exceptional executive presence goes much deeper than what's seen on the surface. So think about the top of the iceberg. That would be you see somebody as a leader. But below the iceberg, they've done all these different topics to have themselves be perceived as a leader. We will start off at the bottom, focusing on your confidence. This seems a little silly, I would say, because obviously you see leaders and you think that they have so much confidence, but I would say even as starting out in my job and navigating how I want to be perceived as a leader, I had to completely shift my confidence and reshape how I want to be perceived, and that is entirely through confidence. So dressing precisely for the situation. If Ryan and I were in t-shirt and shorts, I think you would perceive us a little bit differently than how we're dressed right now. I think seeking feedback is huge for confidence. I knew I wanted to grow in certain aspects. How could I grow in those aspects if I wasn't seeking feedback and getting actionable items that I can work on to do better with my confidence? And then finally, kind of how Ryan spoke to before, being authentic. Like we said, you can read when people are not presenting their authentic selves. And I think as a leader, if you sense that as somebody who's being led, your trust in them just plummets. Moving on to practicing under pressure, relying on your core strengths. So going back to your personal brand, what are you good at? Go back to the basics. When you're going to a presentation, a meeting, a test, you know what you're good at. Focus on what you're good at. You do not need to focus on your internal insecurities. Leaving your comfort zone behind you, find different ways to push yourself out of your comfort zone. I know it's uncomfortable and it's a little awkward at first, but that kind of goes within the confidence. You continuously push yourself into new scenarios that you are not familiar with. You're going to feel so confident going into something that you are not expecting. Moving on to refining your communication, flexing your assertiveness when needed. I know this sounds a little bit odd at first, but when you're standing up, when you're leading people, ensure that you are speaking confidently. You are answering questions when needed. I know there's one that's think five questions deep. You are, right here, under preparing 5 questions deep. This also goes under refining communication. Expect people to ask questions. You will never go into something and people will just be completely silent the whole time. Somebody's going to ask a question. Be able to read any client, boss, or room. I think that's huge with being an executive. If you read on their body language, read their facial expressions, read their tone whenever they ask those type of questions. I think that's huge when navigating a situation. If you see something negative arising, you can read those body languages, those tones, and you can proactively help redirect that situation and turn it into a positive. And finally, growing your influence. I think the huge one on this one is speaking truth to power through integrity. That's something Ryan touched a little bit about before, but you want to trust your leaders. And within that comes with integrity. So as y'all are growing your executive presence, lead by example, lead with integrity, lead with humility. And then finally, I'll just say develop your emotional intelligence. I also think this is huge when it comes to executive presence. You don't want to be a leader, or you don't want to be led by a leader that is perceived as petty or is perceived as not being fair to everybody who comes to them with a problem or not a problem. And this little blurb right here I really like. Executive presence is just more than a sum of these parts, so it's definitely a combination of how others perceive you, so your personal brand, and your ability to navigate situations effectively. And these next two slides, these are just bar graphs essentially of different qualities that senior leaders have looked at and put some data to. So gravitas is a bit of a fluffy word, but it's like others' ability to read your confidence and to see you as a leader. And a few I want to touch on right here. I think the biggest is confidence and poise, and that's a direct effect of your personal brand. So if you see me standing up here shaking, stumbling over my words, which is perfectly normal, and I do quite often, but I don't dwell on those stumbles. You come back stronger after you what's it called? You see, this is an exact example of this. Integrity, going back to speaking truth to power. And then finally on this, reputation and standing. This kind of goes back into the being consistent. So you are continuously proving yourself as a leader. You're continuously being integrity, or continuously having integrity, continuously exhibiting those qualities of humility and of being a leader. You can go to the next one. And then this is just top communication traits. So just a fundamental skill for leader is having those effective and dynamic communication traits. And one thing I want to point out on here is a sense of humility, or a sense of humor and ability to banter. So at Netflix, when candidates were coming in for more leadership positions, the interviewers, the first thing they would ask them is, tell me a joke. And it's not so much as are you funny or not, but it's your ability to think on your feet and to be witty with others. And I think that's a huge part of executive presence. Nobody just wants a cut and dry leader all the time. They want to have some personal connections with their leaders, and I think that's a big part of having executive presence. So, how do our two topics intersect? We've talked about personal brand, we've talked about executive presence. You can go to the next. And just to reiterate, so for personal brand, that is how you are perceived by others, encompassing your reputation, your value, and your unique qualities. And then personal brand is your ability, and executive presence is your ability to command respect and influence others through demeanor, communication style, and overall presence. So, how do these connect? These connect with being a leader through a strong personal brand reinforces a leader's executive presence by establishing that credibility and authenticity, while a commanding executive presence enhances the leader's personal brand by projecting that confidence and authority. That is our two topics, and so now we'll move into some group practice, and with this, we would love some collaboration. You don't need to raise your hand. Feel free if you'd like to, but just shout out however your opinions about the two topics we're about to go through. We have some, you can go to the next. We just have a couple scenarios, and we'd love to talk through them as a group. So scenario 1, delayed deliverable. Your team has been working with a tight deadline and limited resources on a client project. You, as a team member, must call your project director, also known as PD, to tell them that you're going to have to delay the deliverable to the client. So I think this encompasses your personal brand and executive presence. Your personal brand is how you're going to approach that situation. And then with your executive presence, how are you going to go in to that conversation with your PD who it has a higher rank than you. So we can address some of these questions. So how would you address this difficult situation? How would you deliver the news to your PD? So like email, meeting, Teams message. How would you own your responsibility in the delay? What was your part in the deliverable not being ready on time? And then what steps are you going to do to ensure that the deliverable gets finished as soon as possible? The worst thing you could do is go to your PD and just be like, hey, deliverable won't be done on time, because the first question they're going to ask you is, okay, well, when will it be done? And so being proactive and meeting with the team and aligning with everybody before going to the PD will just ensure everybody's on the same page, and your PD would be much happier to find that you've already come up with a solution before coming to them. I think that's a huge part of humility. It's okay to own whenever you make a mistake, and PD will appreciate that. You don't want to throw your team members under the bus because at the end of the day, you're a team. Everybody had a part in the delayed deliverable. Okay, scenario 2, team lead. You've recently been offered a team lead position. Your new team will consist of a diverse group of employees with varying levels of experience. Some team members are highly skilled but may struggle with communication, while others are enthusiastic but may lack technical expertise. So here's some questions that we can talk through. So how will you leverage your personal brand to establish yourself as a credible and respected leader? What specific leadership qualities and behaviors will you prioritize to foster a positive culture and drive performance? How can you effectively address the diverse needs and challenges of your team members? And finally, what strategies will you utilize to develop your own leadership skills in this new role? Agreed. I think team meeting is huge. Go ahead and building some team bonding moments within your team, because not only will they have to work with you, they'll have to work with each other. So getting them familiar with each other as well is huge. I know in Credera specifically, we do like trading cards at the beginning of every project, and it's like, what are you comfortable doing? Like, what are your expertise? What do you lack? What do you want to grow in? So that is a direct example of that. Yeah, I think that's huge because that also gives each of the team members the ability to show their leadership qualities as well. So like pairing different team members who like excel in one skill and who need a little bit of help in the other skill, pairing it like that, and then allowing them to show their own leadership qualities. That's a great skill, and that builds team bonding as well. So this is just a little personal exercise. It's called the leader I want to be. So just a letter to your future self. So the next 5 to 10 minutes, we'll probably do around 5, just for timing purposes. I know some of y'all have the notebooks that we provided, but if not, feel free to use your own medium to write this. But just write a letter to your future self as a leader. Until the thought process behind this is we want this letter to serve as a powerful reminder of what type of leader you aspire to be, whether you're graduating soon, you're going into a different, or you're moving up in your grade level for the coming year. So what to include, these are just some ideas. Feel free to make it personal, do whatever you want it to be. So what you learned today and how you plan to take these lessons wherever you go next. Notes about how you're feeling right now in your leadership endeavors. I think that's huge, where you are right now and then where you want to be in the future. Ask your future self how you are different now or how you might have grown in the past 10 months. And then finally, just write to yourself how you hope you are feeling as you wrap up this school year or embark on your next journey. So next steps. If you're interested in Credera, you can fill out this attendance form, and then you can receive applications to job postings via email. We have management consulting and technology consulting internships. We'll be hanging out here for a little bit, so feel free.
Can y'all please give them a round of applause for today?